So Bungie is dropping the nerf hammer on Stasis so hard from the looks of these patch notes that it ended up messing up my video schedule. I had 2 videos made going in depth on PvP for Destiny 2, and all of that got thrown out the window with these nerfs. Now, I gotta go back and remove some of the Stasis stuff and all, so yeah, welcome to content creation. But back on topic, I want to talk about these nerfs, whether or not I think it will resolve the issue, and the nerf themselves, and why this is a big positive step for PvP. Let me just say this. Bungie just overall surprised me with this update. They saw the problem was serious and in a surprising fashion put all hands on deck to make sure PvP isn't as miserable as it is right now. We joke saying that Bungie just doesn't care about PvP, but this shows otherwise. Now let's just get some new maps, am I right? But with that being said, let's jump into what actually got nerfed. Now onto the patch notes. We're going to be reading from Bungie's recent TWAB, link to it down in the description if you want to read anything yourself. But yeah, their main pillars for the PvP experience is the first part we're going to talk about. So first, weapons are the primary way players engage with combat. Non-super abilities insinuate or augment the combat but should rarely solve an encounter by themselves. Abilities have clear strengths, weaknesses, and counterplay. Build crafting is rewarding with the moment-to-moment combat loop of Destiny. This patch is something we moved up from Season 15 to help smooth over some of the pain points players have been feeling. It's important to note here that shifting our focus like this comes at a considerable cost to the team, so it's unlikely that mid-season patches of this scope will become a regular occurrence. Once this patch has shipped, we will be diving back into Season 15, where we are planning to deliver another balanced patch focused on updates to the light subclasses while continuing to iterate on Stasis. The goal here is to address some key pieces of feedback and make more of the light subclasses viable across the game. Now, what I love about this is that it addresses the main issue with Stasis and its ability to go against what Bungie has designed for PvP. Mentioning how gunplay is the main way players interact with the combat loop is also great to see. Out of all this, I'm excited for the changes teased for the light-based subclasses. Hopefully we get more customization flexibility, but at this point, anything to make me use them more would be nice. Now let's get on to the long list of Stasis nerfs. Now we'll be reading this list. We're not going to be saying every single point like notes or anything, but yeah. So first up, Stasis Freeze. Reduce duration of all non-super freezes versus players to 1.35 seconds. Reduce special weapon, heavy weapon, and light ability bonus damage versus frozen player from 50% to plus 5%. Stasis Slow no longer reduces weapon accuracy, now increases weapon flinch under fire, no longer suppresses class ability and air moves, example of Icarus Dash. Reduce movement speed penalty while slowed by negative 20%. Whisper of Heteron's Fragment no longer increases weapon damage after freezing, now increases weapon stability, weapon aim assist, mobility, resilience, and recovery after freezing. Whisper of Rhyme Fragment no longer provides overshield while in super. Cold Snap Grenade Seeker no longer tracks targets after initial target acquisition. Increase aiming duration before Seeker spawns from 0.3 seconds to 0.8 seconds. Reduce detonation radius versus players from 3 meters to 1.5 meters. Now bounces off walls and detonates on the ground. Now with the Titan Behemoth, looking at recent gameplay data, the Behemoth generally has the highest win rate of any subclass for most 6v6 game modes and is amongst the strongest in 3v3 modes. In Trials of Osiris matches, for example, only top tree Dawnblade has a higher win rate. We've taken these strengths into account when balancing the Behemoth abilities. Between Shiver Strike and Cryoclasm, the Behemoth has incredibly high mobility, making targeting the Behemoth frustrating for control players in the particular. We've taken some steps to make Behemoth more targetable while moving, which should hopefully alleviate some of this frustration. Now Shiver Strike, reduce flight speed and distance, reduce knockback versus players, remove slow detonation on player impact. Now Cryoclasm now requires the Titan to sprint for 1.25 seconds before activation when not in the super. Remove cooldown. Hallow's Storm, reduce angle initial freezing and damage cone. Reduce crystal detonation freezing radius. Slow down sequence of crystal formation to allow victims more opportunity to escape. Now spawns a small crystal on walls if performed into walls. Glacial Quake, reduce heavy slam vertical freeze range versus players, reduce damage resistance from 50% to 47%. Now the Hunter Revenant. The Revenant's crucible win rate, kills per minute, and the average efficiency is generally within the top 6 of all subclass trees, but its usage rate is incredibly high. In Trials of Osiris matches, it is the 5th highest win rate of any subclass tree, but is used a whopping 36% of Trials players. This high usage means players fall victim to its abilities more often, multiplying the frustration of being slowed by Withering Blade and Winter Shroud. We've hoped that the changes we've made to being slowed, paired with the adjustments to the Revenant abilities, make this experience better. Withering Blade reduced the slow duration versus players from 2.5 seconds to 1.5 seconds. Reduced Whisper of Durance slow duration extension versus players from 2 seconds to 0.5 seconds. Reduced damage versus players from 65 to 45. Another one bounce reduced further to 30. Reduced projectile speed by 10%. Reduced tracking after bouncing off a wall. Winter Shroud reduced slow duration versus players from 2.5 seconds to 1.5 seconds. Reduced Whisper of Durance slow duration extension versus players from 2 seconds to 0.5 seconds. Touch of Winter's Cold Snap Sneaker no longer has an increased movement speed or travel distance. Cold Snap Sneaker now spawns a small stasis crystal on detonation. Warlock Shadebinder. The Shadebinder's Crucible performance is generally within the top 10 of all subclass trees. In Trials of Osiris matches, it had the 9th highest win rate of all sub-trees. While the Shadebinder may not have been the most powerful in competitive play, being frozen by its abilities take a large emotional toll on the victim. We've adjusted the Preneural Blast to require more accuracy versus players in order to turn this ability of a skill shot given its powerful effects. Preneural Blast reduced tracking and proximity detonation size and tracking versus players. Reduced freeze radius versus players when impacting the environment from 2.5 meters to 1.5 meters. Ice Flare Bolts. Seeker now only chains once per spawn from a player shatter. Winter's Wrath. Freezing projectiles tracking strength now ramps down to 0 after 2 seconds of flight. We hope these changes have a positive impact on your Crucible experience. While the gameplay team is very busy on working on future releases, Crucible and the PvP are incredibly important to us, and we'll continue to monitor the gameplay data and community feedback regarding stasis and subclass abilities in general. We'll continue to update stasis until its win rates and usage rates are in line with light subclasses. Expect more updates in the future. Now, whether or not this will address our main issues with stasis, we have to wait and see when this update goes live, but I will admit it does look drastic on paper. It's also honestly unfair for anyone to say from reading this that stasis is going to be nerfed. Why do you say that, you may ask? Well, the main issue is freezing, so we have to see how frequently players get frozen. And even if it's for 1 second, that still stops the player's movement, which is a core issue with it in PvP. Now let's shift into the more positive side of things. People, including myself, do forget that there are people who focus on the PvP part of the game. That's because PvP has been let to rot for what feels like years now. They have even admitted to that happening here in this TWAB, but this massive update that targets the PvP experience really shows that Bungie does care to some degree at least. Now this won't solve all the issues, but it will fix the issue that more often than not has caused me just to stop playing Crucible after a few matches. If I get frozen less frequently than I do now, then that alone would allow me to play PvP just as much as I used to. Now that's pretty much all I have to say on the stasis nerfs that is incoming or that has already gone live. That is if you are watching this video after the update has gone live. But if you guys enjoyed this video and found it informative, then be sure to drop this video a like. It helps out a ton. If you guys are new here as well and you want more Destiny 2 content from me or even Call of Duty Warzone content, if you guys like that game as well, be sure to hit that subscribe button to get more videos from me. Now that's all I got for this one. I am out of breath. Shout out here, and I'm out.